Hey, it's me, Verge, at Divinity Ranch. Thanks for being here with me. You know, the truth is, I started this whole journey that led to me starting this channel back when I was living in Guatemala in the spring into summer of 2020, living in Shela, Guatemala with a host family. Lived there for about 5 months, got pretty good at Spanish, got very, very close to some amazing humans and animals. Learned a bit about baking cakes and tostadas. The family that I lived with owned a panaderia, a bakery. It all started for me, this spiritual aspect of my journey, with a class that I took from Daily Om on codependence. I bet I can actually find the class and put it in the About section of this video. And when it all comes down to it, I feel like that is still what I am most evolving in 2 years later. And maybe that's a lot of what I'm here to evolve from my whole life. For those of you who don't know what codependence is, I recently heard it described as sort of the antithesis, or like the complement, the opposite of narcissism. And it's something that often happens for children who grew up in alcoholic families, which I wouldn't say I necessarily did in my childhood. It has been part of my family and generational existence, although there are a lot of ways that codependence can show up. It's just something that often shows up in children of alcoholic families, or other drug abuse, or really narcissism. And codependence is essentially a hypersensitivity to everyone around you, always looking to fix things, like hyper aware of what needs to be done to keep certain people happy, hyper aware of what is or isn't allowed, the inability to be happy or okay while knowing that someone else who is part of that codependency isn't okay. Yeah, often a need to rescue or save or fix. These are just some aspects of codependency that characterize my experience with it. Real difficulty letting go in relationships. Looking for validation outside oneself. Unable to have a sense of worth without it being reflected in how you are making, or in this case, I am making other people okay. And I just wanted to be super raw because, maybe I just don't know much. I really don't want this channel to be about me being some kind of guru or teacher or expert. I want it to be about me telling real stories, whether about myself or others, and that I hope that people can find healing for themselves in listening to these stories, or maybe just in being around the straight up authenticity that is being offered here. So today I went to lunch with a friend, and I was saying how hard it's been for me in one of my relationships to not have closure and not feel like we can, at least in a romantic relationship, a long-term romantic relationship that's been over for a while, to not have closure and to not feel like we can still be friends, to not feel like we can meet at a real level, to really feel like there's just absolutely no opening to have any kind of conversation or connection of any sort of substance. And it's very hard for me because as I was saying to my friend, it makes me feel like what we had wasn't real. And that's really, really hard for me because this was a huge part of my life for many, many years. Like even before we dated, this person was literally my first love. And so it's deeper, you know, it's sort of an archetypal animus kind of thing. It's pretty deeply ingrained in my psyche, essentially. And I was saying to my friend, I just feel like it's like delegitimizes everything that we had, that there's no, like, we can't share stories. We can't talk about that. We can't ingrain that into the lives that we make going forward, even as, you know, we're in other relationships or whatever. It's not that I want to get back together with this person. Sure, there are feelings there, but it's not that. It's really wanting to have a genuine relationship with them, and just this realization of, like, I can't make anyone do anything. And if I am counting on this person for closure, that's never going to happen. If I need to have a real therapeutic level, authentic conversation with this person in order to move on, then I'm never going to move on. And and gonna be, well, you know, I'll have to, but it won't be in the way that I feel like I need it. And my friend, who is a therapist, said something really potent. She said, why do you need him to validate that it was real? You know it was real. You know that. And that just goes back to my codependence, right? Like, I think that would be a good definition of codependence right there. Like, I have this deeply ingrained pattern of thinking and behavior and relationships that says what I believe or perceive is not legitimate unless I have that validated by someone else. And if I feel like someone else does not validate me, then I begin to wonder if I'm worthy. Or I begin to wonder, like, I trust what others would say about or show to me more than I trust my own feelings and knowing. And I trust my perceiving of how others would think of me more than I trust, like, how much I know myself. And I just want to share this with you, not so that I can get all this advice necessarily on, although I welcome it, sure, like, on how to heal. That is, you know, my own journey, and probably something that is going to come deeper and truer in different aspects of therapy as well. It's really just to show you that if anyone watches my channel, you know how deeply I think, you know how willing I am to deep dive into the pain, how much I've written about every single thing that I've thought or felt over the past year and a half. I mean, really, really going into it. And yet here I am. Like, this, I'm still there. And again, like, the soul's journey lives outside of time. This is, you know, 2 years really isn't that long. And it's pretty powerful to realize how deeply ingrained this pattern is in me, that unless someone else can validate something as being real for me, like my own legitimacy, my own being a good person, my own feeling of love and relationship, then I doubt that it is real, because I feel like what I need to validate that something is real is whoever is involved in that telling me that it is. And, you know, I mean, maybe it's not real to that person. Like, I'll never know. I'll never know that. Honestly, even if whatever they told me, like, we can never know for sure. The work for me is in trusting myself and coming back to that trust that my experience of something and my knowing of the ways that this relationship is interwoven into and has affected and will always affect my life, that is real for me. Coming to trust myself, coming to care about what I feel, whatever is reflected in the outside world about that. And, having safe and trusted others to have these kinds of conversations with. And this is also just an example of, for me, a lot of the journey of spirituality has led me to therapy. And I realized that a lot of the people who started following this channel did not start following it because they wanted to learn about codependence and generational trauma and these kinds of things. And I just really feel like the more aware that you're willing to become, the more you realize how much your practical life is a reflection of where you are on the spiritual path, as in our relationships and our trauma and the way that we were raised in our family, like our biology, how we are on this physical earth is our indicator of where we are on the spiritual path. And as much as I want to and am on the path and am willing to love myself and accept every part of myself and trust myself and find that validation in myself and know my own divinity and all of these things, when I look at the way that I still experience especially romantic relationships and certain other relationships in my life, like familial relationships, that's where my work is. And so to just say, like, for me at least, to just say, to just like say affirmations or like, oh, I'm letting go, or just to meditate, that for me isn't working. And, maybe I haven't done enough. I actually, maybe that's not even the way to say it. I'm sure whatever can work for whoever. That's not the path that I choose. The path that I choose is to become conscious of the unconscious, basically, and to become conscious of how much codependence, whether in one-on-one relationships or my idea of how the world thinks of me, the public thinks of me, whatever the hell that means, public opinion, how much that drives whether I feel okay or not, and literally how my body feels, like whether my parasympathetic rest and relax nervous system or sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, is activated. And just becoming aware of that and being able to talk about that and being able to ask myself that question. It's like, why do I need someone else to validate that? I do know that love was real for me. And that's a beautiful thing. That's really all there is, actually. How real that love was for me, the good and the bad, man, that's, for a romantic like me, that's what life is all about in a lot of ways. And if that person is never able to verify how important that was in their life as well, and maybe also maybe it just wasn't that important in their life as well, that doesn't mean that it wasn't real for me, because I'm the only one who can know that, and I'm the only one who can validate and verify that for myself. And the more that I become conscious of that and learn to do that, whatever it's about, the more that I am really going to be able to walk the path of enlightenment, more and more of being enlightened to myself. And this is also just so important for me in general, right? Because when I make these videos or write books and put my art out there, really no matter what the feedback is, it's more about me knowing that it was real and the best I could do and raw and authentic and making art for me. So this is just a log on where I'm at in my journey with codependence at this point, and maybe you relate. Maybe you relate from one end or the other, whether it's the narcissistic end and people are codependent on you or the codependent end. I have to go. Thanks for being here. I love you. Here's Raza. A rare, thank you. Did you? You can see how beautiful she is. This is a rare camera occurrence for her. All right, we love you.